The capture. Dr. Elena Rees peered through the viewport of the research vessel Curiosity, her dark eyes wide with wonder. The swirling emerald atmosphere of the planet Nexus 7 filled her vision, a sight that still took her breath away even after 3 months of orbit. "Mom, come look at this," the excited voice of her 10-year-old daughter Zoe echoed through the ship's corridor. Elena smiled, setting aside her datapad and making her way to the ship's small laboratory. She found Zoe hunched over a microscope, her mop of curly hair barely contained by a faded baseball cap. "What have you got there, kiddo?" Elena asked, leaning in close. Zoe stepped back, gesturing dramatically at the microscope. "I think I found something alive in the soil sample." Elena raised an eyebrow, intrigued. They'd been collecting and analyzing samples from Nexus 7's upper atmosphere for weeks, but signs of life had been elusive. She peered into the microscope, adjusting the focus slightly. There, amid the crystalline structures of the alien soil, something moved. It was barely perceptible, a slight shimmer that could easily be missed. But it was there. "Well done, Zoe," Elena exclaimed, straightening up and ruffling her daughter's hair. "This could be exactly what we've been looking for. Let's run some more tests and—" A sudden violent shudder ran through the ship, cutting Elena off mid-sentence. Warning klaxons blared as the lighting shifted to an ominous red. "What's happening?" Zoe cried, fear evident in her voice. Elena's mind raced. They were alone out here, far beyond the current limits of human space. Help, if it came at all, would be weeks away. "I don't know, sweetheart, but we need to get to the escape pod. Now." She grabbed Zoe's hand, and they raced through the corridor towards the ship's small escape vessel. The Curiosity shook again, more violently this time. Elena could hear the groan of metal under stress, the sharp reports of rivets popping free. They reached the escape pod just as another impact rocked the ship. Elena punched in the launch sequence with trembling fingers, then strapped Zoe into one of the seats before securing herself. "Mom, I'm scared," Zoe whimpered. Elena reached out, squeezing her daughter's hand. "I know, baby, but we're going to be okay, I promise." The escape pod ejected with a bone-jarring thud, and Elena watched in horror through the small window as the Curiosity, their home for the past 3 months, crumpled like a tin can crushed by an unseen hand. As the pod spiraled away from the wreckage, Elena caught a glimpse of their attacker. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of their research vessel. Its hull was a dull, mottled green that seemed to shift and change even as she watched, blending seamlessly with Nexus 7's atmosphere. "Camouflage," Elena muttered. "No wonder we didn't see them coming." The alien ship's hull split open like the maw of some prehistoric beast, swallowing their tiny escape pod whole. Darkness enveloped them, and Elena felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. The last thing she heard before losing consciousness was Zoe's frightened whimper. Elena awoke to the acrid smell of smoke and unfamiliar chemicals. She blinked, trying to clear her blurry vision, and found herself staring into a face that haunted the nightmares of every spacefarer, broad, flat, with 4 glittering black eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Nexons, the scourge of this sector of space. Elena tried to move, only to find her arms and legs bound to some kind of metal frame. Panic surged through her as memory returned. "The attack, the escape pod, Zozo," she cried out, struggling against her bonds. "Where's my daughter?" The Nexon regarded her silently for a moment, then stepped aside. Elena's heart clenched as she saw Zoe, similarly restrained, on another frame nearby. The girl's eyes were wide with terror, tears streaking her dirt-smudged cheeks. "Mom," Zoe sobbed. "What's happening? Who are they?" Before Elena could respond, a new voice cut through the air. It was deep, resonant, and utterly alien. "Silence, humans. You will speak only when addressed." A towering figure strode into view. This Nexon was easily 8 feet tall, its muscular frame covered in intricate patterns of raised scar tissue. Elaborate bone jewelry adorned its neck and arms, clacking softly as it moved. "I am War Chief Kazarak," the alien intoned. "You have trespassed in Nexan space, violating our sacred hunting grounds. For this, you will pay the blood price." Elena's mind reeled. Nexan space. But they were hundreds of light years from the nearest charted Nexan territory. "Unless—" "Please," he said, forcing her voice to remain steady. "There must be some mistake. We're scientists, explorers. We didn't know this was your territory." Kazarak's upper eyes narrowed. "Ignorance is no excuse. The law is clear. Trespassers must be sacrificed to appease the great beast." Elena's blood ran cold. She'd heard whispers, rumors of the Nexans' brutality, their fanatical devotion to some monstrous creature they worshipped as a god. But she'd dismissed them as spacer tales, exaggerations meant to frighten new recruits. Now, faced with the reality, she felt true terror grip her heart. "No, please," she begged. "Take me if you must, but spare my daughter. She's just a child." Kazarak tilted his head, regarding Elena with what might have been curiosity. "You would offer yourself in place of your offspring. Interesting, but unnecessary. The great beast hungers for two souls. You will both be honored by serving as its sustenance." With a gesture from Kazarak, more Nexans appeared. They released Elena and Zoe from their restraints, only to bind their hands with some kind of energy cuffs that hummed with barely contained power. As they were roughly marched through twisting corridors of green-tinged metal, Elena's mind raced. There had to be a way out of this, some solution she hadn't thought of yet. She was a scientist, damn it. Problem-solving was what she did. But as they emerged into a vast chamber, all thoughts of escape flooded Elena's mind. The room was a massive arena, its walls lined with tier upon tier of Nexans, all watching with an eerie, anticipatory silence. At the center of the arena floor was a raised dais, atop which sat an ornate throne. And on that throne, Elena's breath caught in her throat. The creature was enormous, easily 20 feet tall even in its seated position. Its body was a mass of rippling muscle and armored plates, 6 limbs ending in wickedly curved claws. But it was the thing's head that truly chilled Elena's blood. It was unmistakably draconic in shape, with a long, tooth-filled snout and a crown of bony spikes. But where a dragon's eyes should have been, there was only smooth, scarred flesh. The creature was eyeless, and yet Elena could feel its attention fixed squarely on her and Zoe. "Behold," Kazarak's voice boomed out. "The great beast, Carthax the Unmaker, devourer of worlds, has deigned to accept your sacrifice personally. Consider yourselves blessed humans. Few are granted such an honor." They were shoved forward towards the dais. Elena could hear Zoe's terrified whimpers, feel her daughter trembling beside her. She wanted to offer comfort, to tell Zoe it would be all right, but the words stuck in her throat. How could she lie in the face of such hopelessness? As they neared the dais, Elena felt a strange pressure building in her head. It was as if something vast and alien was pressing against the edges of her consciousness, seeking entry. She gritted her teeth, trying to resist, but it was like trying to hold back the tide with her bare hands. Suddenly, Zoe gasped beside her. "Mom, I can hear it. In my head." Before Elena could respond, Carthax moved. With a speed that belied its massive size, the creature lunged forward, its eyeless face stopping mere inches from Zoe. The girl stood frozen, her eyes wide, as the great beast's hot breath washed over her. For a moment, the entire arena held its breath. Then, to the shock of all present, Carthax did something unprecedented. It bowed. The massive head lowered, pressing itself to the ground at Zoe's feet. A collective gasp ran through the assembled Nexans. Even Kazarak seemed stunned, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in confusion. "Impossible," the war chief muttered. "In all our history, the great beast has never." But Carthax wasn't finished. As Elena and the Nexans watched in awe, the creature's form began to shift and change. Its armored plates retracted, its massive limbs shrunk and reformed. In a matter of moments, where the terrifying great beast had stood, there was now a creature that looked almost cuddly. It resembled nothing so much as a giant, six-limbed puppy, albeit one with remnants of its former draconic features. It looked up at Zoe with large, liquid eyes that had appeared where moments ago there had been only scar tissue. And then, to the utter astonishment of all present, it spoke, not out loud, but directly into the minds of Elena and Zoe. At last the voice said, a mixture of wariness and hope coloring its mental tone. After eons of waiting, you have come. The one who can hear. The one who can see past the monster to the being beneath. Welcome, young Zoe. We have much to discuss. As Elena stood there, her mind struggling to process what she'd just witnessed, she realized that everything had changed. Whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same. For better or worse, their true adventure was only just beginning. The symbiosis. The arena fell into a stunned silence, the collective breath of thousands of Nexans held in disbelief. War Chief Kazarak's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. The once terrifying Carfax, now resembling an oversized, scaly puppy, sat contentedly at Zoe's feet, its 6 limbs tucked neatly beneath its transformed body. This is heresy. Kazarak finally bellowed, his voice echoing through the cavernous space. The great beast does not bow. It does not shrink. Elena, her scientific mind, racing to process the impossible transformation she'd just witnessed, placed a protective arm around Zoe's shoulders. What's happening? She whispered to her daughter. Can you still hear it, him, in your head? Zoe nodded, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. He says his name is Isaac. He's been waiting for someone like me for a really long time. As if in response to Zoe's words, Isaac's new form began to glow with a soft, pulsating light. Tendrils of luminescent energy reached out, gently wrapping around Zoe's arms and legs. Elena instinctively tried to pull her daughter away, but Zoe remained calm. It's okay, Mom, she said, her voice taking on an otherworldly timbre. He's not hurting me, he's showing me things. The glowing tendrils began to spread, enveloping both Zoe and Elena in a cocoon of shimmering light. As the energy touched her skin, Elena gasped. Images, sounds, and sensations flooded her mind, a vast repository of knowledge and experience spanning millennia. She saw the universe as it was eons ago, teeming with diverse civilizations. She witnessed the rise of the Nexans, a noble race of explorers and philosophers. And then, darkness. A creeping corruption that turned the Nexans from seekers of knowledge to brutal conquerors. At the heart of this darkness was Isaac, once revered as a wise and benevolent entity, now twisted into the monstrous form of Carfax, trapped in a cycle of violence and sacrifice, unable to communicate its true nature to the Nexans who worshipped it as a god of destruction. Until now. As the vision faded, Elena found herself back in the arena, but everything had changed. The energy cocoon had dissipated, leaving behind a transformed Zoe. Her daughter's skin shimmered with intricate, bioluminescent patterns, her eyes glowing with an inner light that spoke of vast, ancient knowledge. Isaac, still in his diminutive form, sat beside Zoe, their energies visibly intertwined. When Zoe spoke, her voice carried the weight of centuries. People of Nexus, she began, her words echoing in both the physical space and the minds of all present. For too long, you have been led astray by fear and misunderstanding. The being you knew as Carfax was never a god of destruction, but a guardian of knowledge and peace. Murmurs of confusion and disbelief rippled through the crowd. Kazarak, his earlier bravado shaken, stepped forward. What manner of trickery is this? He demanded, though his voice lacked its former certainty. Zoe turned her luminous gaze upon the war chief. No trickery, Kazarak. Only truth, long hidden. Isaac is a cosmic librarian, one of an ancient race tasked with preserving the knowledge of the universe. But an ancient enemy, the Void Harbingers, corrupted his form and twisted your people's perception of him. As Zoe spoke, the air around her shimmered, projecting holographic images that illustrated her words. The Nexans watched, transfixed, as the history of their species unfolded before them. The sacrifices you offered, Zoe continued, were never consumed. Sleesic absorbed them into himself, preserving their knowledge and experiences, hoping that one day someone would come who could hear his true voice and break the cycle. Elena, still reeling from the influx of cosmic knowledge, found her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. But why so? She asked. What makes her special? Isaac's mental voice, now clear to all present, resonated through the arena. Young Zoe possesses a rare genetic marker, one that appears in less than 1 in a billion humans. This marker allows for direct neural synchronization with my species. In her, I found the key to my prison and the hope for redemption, both mine and that of the Nexan people. As the implications of these revelations sank in, the mood in the arena began to shift. Confusion gave way to awe, and in some cases, shame. Generations of Nexans had committed unspeakable acts in the name of a false god, perpetuating a cycle of violence that had corrupted their entire civilization. Kazarak, his earlier bluster gone, fell to his knees before Zoe and Isaac. What would you have us do? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zoe smiled, a gesture that seemed to illuminate the entire arena. First we heal, then we learn, and finally we prepare. Prepare? Elena asked, a note of concern in her voice. For what? Zoe turned to her mother, her eyes filled with a mixture of love and ancient wisdom. For the return of the Void Harbingers, Mom. They're coming, and this time, they intend to consume not just one civilization, but the entire galaxy. As if on cue, the holographic display above them shifted, showing a vast, dark fleet moving through the cosmos, extinguishing stars as it passed. But this time, Isaac's mental voice resonated with determination. We'll be ready. Humans, Nexans, and countless other species united against the darkness, and at the forefront of this alliance will be us. Zoe finished, reaching out to take her mother's hand. As Elena looked at her transformed daughter, she realized that their capture by the Nexans hadn't been an end, but a beginning. The start of an adventure beyond anything she could have imagined, with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. In that moment, standing in an alien arena light years from Earth, Dr. Elena Rees made a decision. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever dangers they might face, she would stand by her daughter's side. Together, they would forge a new destiny, not just for humanity, but for all sentient life in the cosmos. The adventure of a lifetime was about to begin, and the entire universe waited with bated breath to see what would happen next. The cosmic awakening. The transformation of the Nexan society was as swift as it was profound. Within days of Zoe's revelation, the once fearsome warrior race had begun to rediscover its roots as seekers of knowledge and explorers of the unknown. The great arena, once a place of brutal sacrifices, now hummed with the energy of 1,000 minds working in harmony. At the center of this revolution stood Zoe, her small frame now housing the wisdom of ages. Beside her, Isaac, no longer the terrifying Carfax, had taken on a new form that better reflected his true nature. He now resembled a shimmering, six-limbed creature of pure energy, his body a swirling vortex of colors that seemed to contain entire galaxies. Elena watched in awe as her daughter, bathed in bioluminescent patterns, stood before a group of Nexan scientists, explaining concepts that would have baffled the greatest minds on Earth. The key to defeating the Void Harbingers, so was saying, her voice carrying an authority that belied her years, lies in understanding the very fabric of spacetime itself. They don't just travel through space, they manipulate it, folding reality like origami to cross vast distances in the blink of an eye. One of the Nexan scientists, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in excitement, raised a clawed hand. But how can we hope to counter such power? Our most advanced ships are like children's toys compared to their technology. Zoe smiled, a gesture that seemed to illuminate the entire room. That's where you're wrong. Your technology isn't inferior, it's just been applied incorrectly. For generations, you've focused on weapons of destruction, but those same principles, when viewed through the lens of creation, become something extraordinary. With a wave of her hand, Zoe conjured a holographic display that filled the air around them. Complex equations and schematics danced before their eyes, shifting and reforming as she spoke. Your quantum flux cannons, for instance, you've been using them to tear holes in enemy ships. But with a few modifications, we can use them to tear holes in reality itself. Imagine being able to create stable wormholes at will, to redirect the Void Harbinger's own space-folding techniques against them. The Nexan scientists chittered excitedly, their hands flying over data pads as they rushed to keep up with Zoe's explanations. Elena felt a swell of pride mixed with a touch of melancholy. Her little girl was still in there somewhere, but she had become something more. As if sensing her mother's thoughts, Zoe turned and gave Elena a warm smile. In that moment, she was just a 10-year-old again, looking for her mom's approval. Elena smiled back, blinking away tears. Suddenly, an alarm blared through the complex. Red lights flashed, and the holographic displays flickered and died. "What's happening?" Elena shouted over the din. Isaac's mental voice, calm but urgent, resonated in their minds. "We have a breach. Something has penetrated our outer defenses." Before anyone could react, the far wall of the chamber exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped a figure that made Elena's blood run cold. It was humanoid in shape, but their any resemblance to life as they knew it ended. Its body seemed to be composed of living shadow, constantly shifting and roiling. Where its face should have been was a void of pure darkness, punctuated by 2 pinpricks of cold, white light. At last, the creature's voice grated like steel on stone. "The Nexan heretics and their human pets. Did you really think your pitiful awakening would go unnoticed?" Zoe stepped forward, her small frame radiating defiance. "You're early," she said, her voice steady. "We expected the Void Harbingers to take at least another solar cycle to reach us." The shadow being laughed, a sound like galaxies dying. "Foolish child. We have always been here, watching, waiting. Your pathetic attempts at preparation are irrelevant. The harvest of this reality begins now." With blinding speed, the creature lashed out, tendrils of darkness shooting towards Zoe. But before they could reach her, they slammed into an invisible barrier. Isaac had moved to stand between Zoe and the attacker, his energy form pulsing with power. "You forget, Harbinger," Isaac's mental voice boomed. "I am not merely a librarian. I am a guardian of knowledge, and I will not allow you to snuff out the light of understanding we have kindled here." The shadow being snarled, its form growing larger, darkness spreading across the floor and walls. "Then you will die with them, relic. Your time has passed. The age of the void is upon us." As the 2 cosmic entities clashed, the air itself seemed to tear. Reality flickered and warped around them, the laws of physics buckling under the strain of their battle. Elena rushed to Zoe's side, instinctively trying to shield her daughter. But Zoe gently pushed her mother's arms away, her eyes glowing with determination. "Mom," she said, her voice somehow cutting through the chaos around them, "I need you to trust me. What happens in the next few moments will determine the fate of not just our universe, but all possible universes." Before Elena could respond, Zoe closed her eyes and began to chant in a language that sounded older than time itself. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin flared to blinding brightness, and she began to rise into the air. Around them, the Nexan scientists had formed a circle, their hands linked, their 4 eyes closed in deep concentration. Energy began to flow between them, creating a swirling vortex with Zoe at its center. The Void Harbinger, momentarily distracted from its battle with Isaac, turned its attention to the floating child. "What is this?" it hissed. "What are you doing?" Zoe's eyes snapped open, now blazing with white fire. When she spoke, her voice echoed with the power of 1,000 suns. "You claim to be the harbingers of the void," she said. But you have forgotten the most fundamental truth of existence. Where there is void, there must also be substance. Where there is darkness, there must be light. And where there is ending. She raised her hands, and the vortex of energy surrounding her coalesced into a pulsing sphere of pure creation. There must be beginnings, so finished. With a gesture, she hurled the sphere at the void harbinger. As it struck, the creature's shadowy form began to unravel, its very essence being rewritten at the quantum level. "No," it screamed, its voice fading. "This is impossible. We are eternal. We are." Its final words were lost as its form collapsed in on itself, imploding into a singularity of blinding light. For a moment, the light was so intense that Elena had to shield her eyes. When she looked again, where the void harbinger had stood was now a swirling nebula of newborn stars. So floated gently back to the ground, the glow fading from her eyes. She stumbled slightly, and Elena rushed to catch her. What did you do?" Elena asked, cradling her daughter. So looked up at her mother, a tired smile on her face. "I reminded it of what it used to be, before it became a harbinger of the void. Every ending is just a new beginning, Mom. Even for them." As the implications of what had just occurred sank in, a cheer went up from the assembled Nexans. They had just witnessed the impossible, the defeat of a void harbinger, and the birth of a new galaxy. Isaac, his energy form stabilizing, approached Zoe and Elena. "You have done well, young one," his mental voice filled with pride. But this was only the first skirmish in a greater war. The other harbingers will have felt their comrades' transformation. They will come, and in greater numbers. Zoe nodded, her face set with determination. "Then we'll be ready for them. We have the knowledge, we have the will, and now..." She looked around at the Nexans, at her mother, at Isaac. "Now we have hope." As they stood there, surrounded by the remnants of battle and the beauty of a newborn galaxy, Elena realized that the universe had just changed irrevocably. And her daughter, her brilliant, brave, impossible daughter, was at the heart of it all. The cosmic awakening had begun, and with it, a new chapter in the history of all existence. The battle against the Void Harbingers would be long and difficult, but for the first time, there was a real chance of victory. And it all started with a curious little girl who dared to listen to the voice of a monster and found a friend instead, the quantum nexus. The aftermath of Zoe's incredible feat rippled across the cosmos like a stone thrown into a still pond. The newborn galaxy, quickly dubbed Hope's Cradle by the Nexans, became a beacon of possibility in a universe shattered by the threat of the Void Harbingers. But there was little time for celebration. Isaac's warning echoed in their minds. The other Harbingers were coming, and they needed to prepare. In the days that followed, the Nexan homeworld became a hub of frenetic activity. The once warlike species threw themselves into the task of preparation with the same fervor they had once applied to conquest. Under Zoe's guidance, they began to unlock the true potential of their technology, repurposing weapons of war into tools of creation and defense. Elena, determined not to be left behind in this new reality her daughter inhabited, dove headfirst into the work. Her background in xenobiology proved invaluable as they sought to understand the true nature of the Void Harbingers and how best to counter them. It was during one of these research sessions that Zoe approached her mother, a look of excitement on her face that reminded Elena of simpler times, when her daughter's greatest joy was a new scientific discovery. "Mum, I think I figured it out," Zoe said, her eyes glowing with that eerie inner light that still took Elena aback sometimes. "The key to defeating the Harbingers isn't just in the technology or the cosmic energy. It's in the connections between all living things." Elena raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean, sweetie?" Zoe waved her hand, and a holographic display sprang to life between them. It showed a vast, intricate web of light, pulsing with energy. "This is the quantum nexus," Zoe explained. "It's a network that connects every conscious being in the universe at the quantum level. We've always been part of it, but we never knew how to access it consciously. The Void Harbingers have been using it against us, manipulating the connections to sow fear and discord. But if we can learn to use it ourselves, we could unite the entire universe against them. Elena finished, her scientific mind racing with the possibilities. Zoe nodded eagerly. Exactly. And not just unite them, but amplify our collective power exponentially. Imagine billions of minds working as one, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities to solve problems and create solutions. As they discussed the implications of this discovery, alarms began to blare throughout the complex. Isaac's mental voice rang out, urgent and clear. They're here. The Harbingers have begun their assault. Elena and Zoe rushed to the command center, where a massive view screen showed the unfolding battle in space. A swarm of Void Harbinger ships, each one a tear in the fabric of reality, was descending upon the Nexan homeworld. But the Nexans were ready. Ships of their own rose to meet the invaders, their hulls glowing with the power of repurposed quantum flux cannons. As the two forces clashed, the very stars seemed to tremble. "It's not enough," Isaac said, his energy form flickering with concern. "They outnumber us. Even with our new understanding, we cannot hold them off indefinitely." Zoe stepped forward, her small frame radiating determination. "Then it's time to test the quantum nexus. We need to call for help." Before anyone could stop her, Zoe closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin began to pulse rapidly, and a wave of energy exploded outward from her. Across the galaxy, on countless worlds, beings of all shapes and sizes suddenly felt a presence in their minds. They saw visions of the battle raging at Nexus, felt the urgency of the situation, and understood in that instant that the fate of all existence hung in the balance. And then something miraculous happened. They answered. From every corner of the galaxy, ships began to appear. Some were massive dreadnoughts, bristling with weapons. Others were sleek and swift, designed for hit-and-run tactics. There were living ships grown from sentient coral, vessels of pure energy piloted by beings of thought, and everything in between. The assembled fleet was a testament to the diversity of life in the universe, and a powerful statement against the homogenizing void the Harbingers represented. As the reinforcements engaged the Harbinger fleet, Zoe turned to her mother, her eyes wide with wonder and a touch of fear. "I can feel them all, Mom," she whispered. "Billions of minds, all connected through me. It's beautiful, but it's almost too much." Elena wrapped her arms around her daughter, feeling the tremors running through Zoe's small frame. "You don't have to do this alone, sweetie. Remember what you said about connections. Let me help." Without fully understanding how, Elena opened her mind, offering her strength to her daughter. She felt Isaac do the same, his vast consciousness helping to stabilize the network. Through their combined effort, they began to coordinate the disparate fleet, turning chaos into a symphony of perfectly orchestrated attacks. Ships moved in concert, covering each other's weaknesses and amplifying their strengths. The Void Harbingers, for the first time in eons, found themselves on the defensive. Their shadowy ships, once thought invincible, began to fall one by one to the unified assault. But victory was not assured. As the battle raged, a massive Harbinger vessel, easily dwarfing all others, emerged from a rift in space. Its very presence seemed to dim the stars around it. The Void Overseer, Isaac's mental voice was filled with dread. The leader of the Harbingers, if it falls, their entire invasion will crumble. Zoe's eyes snapped open, blazing with determination. "Then that's our target. Mom, Isaac, I need you to hold the Nexus stable. I have an idea, but it's going to take everything we've got." Before Elena could protest, Zoe's consciousness surged through the quantum nexus. She touched the minds of every being in the Allied fleet, sharing her plan in an instant. As one, the fleet began to move. Ships arranged themselves in a massive, intricate pattern, forming a structure that spanned thousands of kilometers of space. Energy began to flow between them, building to levels that threatened to tear reality apart. The Void Overseer, sensing the danger, tried to retreat, but it was too late. With Zoe as a focus, the Allied fleet unleashed a beam of pure creation energy, the antithesis of the Void Harbinger's existence. It struck the Overseer's ship dead center, and for a moment, it seemed as if two universes were colliding. The Overseer's ship began to transform, its shadowy substance giving way to light. The change spread rapidly, engulfing the entire Harbinger fleet. When it was over, where the Void Harbingers had been, there was now a vast, shimmering nebula of newborn stars and planets. The threat had been neutralized, not through destruction, but through transformation. As the Allied fleet erupted in celebration, Zoe collapsed into her mother's arms, exhausted but triumphant. "We did it, Mom," she mumbled, her eyes already closing in sleep. "We reminded them of what they used to be before the void corrupted them. Now they can start over." Elena held her daughter close, tears of joy and relief streaming down her face. Around them, Nexans and their new allies from across the galaxy began to gather, all wanting to pay their respects to the small human girl who had united them and changed the course of cosmic history. Sci-Fi, his energy form pulsing with pride, addressed the assembled beings. "Today marks the beginning of a new era, the era of the quantum nexus. Together, we have proven that the connections between us are stronger than any force that seeks to divide us." As the celebrations continued, Elena looked down at her sleeping daughter. Zoe looked peaceful, almost ordinary in sleep. But Elena knew that nothing would ever be ordinary again. Their adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning. The universe had been saved, but more importantly, it had been changed. And at the heart of that change was a curious little girl from Earth who had dared to imagine a better way. The quantum nexus hummed with possibility, a testament to the power of unity and the indomitable spirit of life itself. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, connected in ways that transcended space and time. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of the newborn nebula, new life was already beginning to stir, ready to embark on its own grand adventure. The multiversal odyssey, the victory over the Void Harbingers, marked the dawn of a new era for the cosmos, but it was far from the end of Zoe and Elena's journey. As the dust of battle settled and the celebratory fervor began to wane, a new challenge emerged, one that would test the limits of their newfound alliance and push the boundaries of reality itself. It began with a ripple, a barely perceptible disturbance in the fabric of space-time. Zoe, her senses now attuned to the subtlest cosmic fluctuations, was the first to notice. "Mom," she said, her voice tinged with concern, "something's wrong with the universe." Before Elena could respond, the sky above the Nexan homeworld tore open, revealing a swirling vortex of impossible colors. Through this rift stepped a figure that defied description, a being of pure mathematical abstraction, its form constantly shifting between geometries that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. "Greetings, Quantum Nexus." The entity's voice resonated on a frequency that made reality itself vibrate. "I am Alpha Null, custodian of the multiversal lattice. Your recent altercations have not gone unnoticed." Isaac moved protectively in front of Zoe and Elena, his energy form crackling with apprehension. "Speak plainly, custodian. What do you want with us?" Alpha Null's form pulsed, projecting a holographic map of mind-bending complexity. "Your battle against the Void Harbingers has had unintended consequences. The energies released have caused fractures in the walls between realities. The multiverse itself is becoming unstable." The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. "Are you saying we've endangered other universes? But how is that possible?" "Mom," Zoe interjected, her eyes wide with understanding, "remember the quantum entanglement theories we studied? On a cosmic scale, everything is connected. Our actions here have rippled across the entire multiverse." Alpha Null's form shimmered in what might have been approval. "The young one understands. Yes, your victory here has set off a chain reaction. Alternate timelines are collapsing. Parallel realities are bleeding into one another. If left unchecked, it could lead to the total collapse of the multiverse. A hush fell over the assembled beings as the gravity of the situation sank in. They had saved their universe, only to endanger countless others. Zoe stepped forward, her small frame radiating determination. There has to be a way to fix this. Tell us what we need to do. Alpha Null's form coalesced into a more humanoid shape, though still shimmering with impossible geometries. A solution exists, but it will require a journey beyond anything you have yet experienced. You must traverse the multiversal lattice itself, sealing the fractures and restabilizing the cosmic framework. But how? Elena asked, her scientific mind reeling at the implications. We don't have the technology to travel between universes. Isaac's mental voice resonated with sudden insight. Perhaps we do. The quantum nexus, if we can expand its reach beyond our own reality. Yes, so explained, her eyes lighting up. We could use it as a bridge between universes. But we'd need an anchor point, something to guide us through the chaos of interdimensional space. Alpha Null's form pulsed with what might have been excitement. That is where I come in. As custodian of the lattice, I can serve as your guide. But be warned, the journey will be perilous. You will encounter realities so alien, so fundamentally different from your own, that they may break your very perception of existence. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The rational part of her mind screamed that this was madness, that they should leave such cosmic affairs to beings like Alpha Null. But as she looked at Zoe, seeing the determination in her daughter's eyes, she knew there was no turning back. When do we leave? Elena asked, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. Now, Alpha Null replied. Every moment we delay, more realities fall into chaos. With a gesture, Alpha Null opened a portal of swirling energy. Zoe took her mother's hand, and together they stepped into the unknown. What followed was a journey beyond imagination. They traversed realities where the laws of physics were mere suggestions, where time flowed backwards, where thought and matter were one and the same. In one universe, they battled creatures of living sound. In another, they navigated a realm where spatial dimensions were as malleable as clay. Throughout it all, Zoe used the power of the quantum nexus to seal the fractures between realities. With each repaired breach, the multiverse grew more stable, but the strain on Zoe increased. In a reality of pure abstract thought, they encountered a civilization of sentient mathematical equations. These beings, fascinated by Zoe's ability to bridge realities, offered to augment her powers. The process was agonizing, but it allowed Zoe to manipulate the very code of reality itself. As they neared the end of their journey, they faced their greatest challenge yet, a reality-consuming entity known as the null paradox. This being, neither alive nor dead, existing and not existing simultaneously, threatened to unravel the entire multiverse. In a desperate gambit, Zoe used her newfound powers to rewrite the fundamental laws of this reality, creating a logical loop that trapped the null paradox within itself. The effort nearly tore her apart, but with Elena and Isaac's support, she persevered. Finally, after what felt like eons, they returned to their home reality. But the Zoe and Elena that emerged from the portal were not the same ones who had left. They had been changed by their experiences, their very beings expanded beyond mortal comprehension. As they stood before the assembled beings of the quantum nexus, Alpha Null addressed them one last time. You have succeeded beyond all expectation, the custodian said. The multiverse is stable once more, but your journey has only just begun. The knowledge and power you now possess come with great responsibility. Zoe, her form now shimmering with multiversal energies, nodded solemnly. We understand, and we're ready for whatever comes next. Elena, her mind still reeling from the wonders and horrors she had witnessed, pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. Whatever happens, she whispered, we face it together. As Alpha Null faded back into the cosmic tapestry, Zoe turned to address the assembled beings of the quantum nexus. Her voice, now layered with the echoes of countless realities, rang out clear and strong. "We've seen the true scope of existence," she said, "and we've learned that the greatest power in any universe is the connections we forge with one another. The quantum nexus is more than just a network. It's a blueprint for a new kind of cosmic society, one that spans not just our reality, but all realities." As the implications of her words sank in, a wave of excitement swept through the crowd. The beings of the quantum nexus, already united in purpose, now stood on the brink of an even greater adventure. The multiverse lay before them, infinite in its possibilities, and at the heart of it all stood a mother and daughter from Earth, forever changed, but still bound by the unbreakable bonds of love and shared experience. Their multiversal odyssey had ended, but their true journey, as guardians of a cosmic legacy beyond imagination, was only just beginning.